Hello, friends and fellow board gamers. Welcome back to Board Games with Rob. In this video, I'm going to kind of do something a little bit different. I'm going to be doing a Kickstarter preview video of a game from a friend of mine, Wesley Cone, who reached out to me with an idea that he had, something he was passionate about. I'd say more than an idea, more like a project. And to really kind of give you a preface about this game, I really need to talk about Wesley and where his background is and what type of person he is. Now, what I mean by that is Wesley is a storyteller and has a vast array of world building experience. And what I'm doing here is displaying his website, merepursuit.com, to kind of look at some of the different worlds that he's got and some of the different content that he provides. He does books, a variety of different games. There's a whole world that this game that I'm going to be talking about is built on. This is his storefront that shows some of the products that he has available, everything from the Isaac's Journey book on up to the card game, Empyrean Hero, the card game. There's a game, he has a pocket game called The Market with some expansions for that. But one of the things you'll notice is there is some book content here. So what we're going to be talking about in this video is a game that he's developed. And I think what this does is bridges the gap between RPG and board game and throws in a mix of roguelike gaming. So anybody that's a fan of games like Dead Cells or Slay the Spire, this might be the game for you. So let's go to the table. Let me show you how the game sets up, talk about how the game plays, and then we'll come up here and talk about it a little bit. Okay, folks, so you're going to see a huge board here. The board is big, and as you can see, it's a entire city that you have in front of you. And everybody, I should preface right from the start, this is a prototype copy. The artwork is, I'm being told, near to being complete, if not complete. However, these are all prototype components. They're I'll tell you, this is one of the nicest prototypes I've ever been given. They're really nice quality dice and cubes. There is different player mats, enough for each person, as well as player aids. And one of the things that I'd like to show you is an example of the player aid that you're going to get in the game. Now, this is fantastic. This is the way I wish that all player aids would be. It's very detailed. It walks you through all the steps, everything you're going to do on turn order. It has your summary charts right there. Everything you need is displayed really nice and organized on these, and there's enough for every single person to have one. You're not going to have like one or two where you're handing them, having to share them among players in the game. No, everybody will have their own individual player aid. So coming back to the board, you're going to have your own player mat, as well as you'll pick a color. There's 4 different players to choose from. Again, I'm picking a solo play. I chose the yellow player. I'm going to put my figurine on the start. Now, you can't see it, but I've got the suit, which is the mysterious bad guy that's going to be chasing me throughout this city behind me. Now, what I'm going to do, I've got you'll start off with all your stats set at 0, and you're going to be picking an occupation card. Here's everybody will have their own occupation card to hand out, and this kind of lists you the different occupations or character types. You might think of these as like a class that you have to pick from. And the game recommends that you start with the Skyrunner with the hide ability. The Skyrunner simply tells you the stats that you're going to be starting out with. And here I've got my speed, I've got defense, I can track my experience points. These are all the different skills I have to choose from. I'm going to put that on hide. Speaking of hide, here are all the skills that you have to choose from. Again, a really nice aid that is handed out, distributed to everybody. And if you look up there at the top, you've got some different skills that you can choose from. In fact, you can sacrifice some points to choose a second skill. But the hide skill there deals with the Horde, which is another mysterious organization or group of creatures that you'll have to deal with possibly throughout the game. So coming back down here, that's where I choose hide. And then the game recommends starting off with a speed of 9. And then my defense is going to be 3 and no experience. I will have 3 hit points. and 0 EK kits. Now, if I sum all of that together, it's going to equal 15 points, which is essentially the amount of points that you have to distribute at the beginning of the game. In fact, you could create your own character, your own custom class by distributing those 15 points as you see fit. And that's kind of what I'm going to do with my character. I'm going to sacrifice one of my speed, knock it down to 8 so that I can start with 1 emergency kit or EK. Why might you want to do that? Well, I'll kind of explain. I like to have 1 EK or emergency kit when I'm playing, just in case I need it. I hate starting out with 0, and I'll sacrifice 1 speed to be able to do that. So then my round tracker, I will have that set up at 1. And essentially with the solo play, you're just, like I said, this is a roguelike game. You're trying to get as far as you can within the city and try and get to the end before you're caught or without getting caught. And you're trying to do that a certain amount of times, and if you can do it 5 times, then you essentially win the game. But you're trying to get as much experience points as you can, stats, and kind of beat your score that you've done previously in the game. And like any roguelike game, you're more than likely going to die or get caught. But that's the fun thing about it, is you're going to gain experience points and be able to purchase skills and items. And your next run through will just be that much, little bit easier. Now, I say that, but the suit is going to increase as well in each different round. In fact, they're going to get extra dice to play, and they might actually get some dice. There's some area, this area here will give them an extra die to roll, but I'm kind of jumping ahead of the gameplay. So now that we've got our character built, let's begin a turn. And as you can see, the first thing that we're going to do in a turn is the movement roll. What we will do with the movement roll is just take our die, we'll roll it. Here I rolled a 6. That's great. I'll take my 6 and then I will add my speed bonus, which right now is 8. That would be 14, and I can move 14. Now, one of the choices that I have to make early on is there's these dark alleys, and this lies the biggest dilemma of the game is, do I risk going down the alley to get these experience points that we have? The reason why would I want to do that? Well, that's your experience points is what's going to allow you to level up and purchase better stats or skills. In this case, you may purchase emergency kits. It's going to help you survive the rest of the game. The problem, however, is whenever you go down an alley, eventually the suit is going to be able to roll. And the suit is this mysterious, dark character that we don't know anything about right now. And I don't know the whole story of this game. And I'm kind of excited to listen or find out about it, have it fleshed out, and learn more about this big immersive world that Wesley has built. But anyway, if the suit is ever to get past an alleyway that we've traversed, we're caught. We come out, and technically, if we don't have any emergency kits, our hit points would automatically be drained to 0, and we would lose the round immediately. And that's one of the reasons why I like to have an emergency kit, is because the emergency kit will prevent me from losing all of those hit points and losing the game. I'll essentially go down to 3 hit points, and actually I'll get 3 experience points. You can think about it, and story is you're gaining experience whenever you're doing something that saves your life or anything that helps your character out. Now, I moved through a 1, which is going to give me 1 experience point. So now, rather than 3, I've got 4 experience points, and I would stop my movement. So one of the things that you'll notice scattered throughout the board are these black dots. That's kind of a neat feature. They mark 5 spots down the alley, so you can just, if you're wanting to do math in your head, you'll know automatically that there are 5 spaces between each dot. Now, if we go back to our turn order, we look at step 2. That is the encounter roll. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to roll one of the die, and I rolled a 4. So what happens? We go back to our encounter table, and 4 is a trap. Now we would lose 2 hit points on the hit point track, And then if we're in the main alley and hit points don't hit 0, we don't have a loss. However, we'll roll 2 player die. In this case, we rolled a 7. So we will go up 7 experiences on our tracker, and we will now have 11 experience points. However, we went down 2 hit points, and now we've only got 1 hit point left. That is our encounter roll. So now step 3, the last thing that we have to do is spend our experience. And as you can see, we've got 3 different things that we can do, or purchases that we can make during that level up period. We can rest for 1 experience, and we could do that 3 times, gain 3 experience points. We can do an upgrade to gain a defense. We could upgrade, we can shop. Now, if we want another EK, I could spend 7 of my experience and get another EK, or I can spend 10 and go ahead and gain a new level. So we would do all of that during this step. Now, the next step, or the last step before we would go again, would be moving the suit. That's ignored on the first turn. But like I said, after starting in turn 2, that suit is going to be coming down the alley, and if he was to run back here and get to my alley space, now he only gets a 6-sided die on the first at the beginning until he gets here, and then he's going to gain 2 die and move possibly, like here, he'd move 11 spaces. However, I have a choice when it's my turn. Do I want to back up and come out here and continue my run? Or do I go forward and get 5 experience points and risk it, knowing that I can't retreat during one of the rules is you can't retreat during the same turn that you're going forward. So I would have to stop at the 5, and I wouldn't be able to circle around and come back out the alley. And it's going to be tight whether or not, I mean, the most he'll be able to get is 6, so he wouldn't be able to get to the alley, but can I then make it out of the alley and get far enough ahead of him the next turn? And therein lies the dilemma of the choices that you're going to have. Do you get, how much further ahead of the suit do you get? And knowing that each time that you take, each turn you take in between yours and his, you're going to have a variety of different encounters that may happen. And let's go back and take a look at them. Anything from deciding whether or not you help somebody, and this is where you might need to spend an EK kit, and it would be nice to have one, and then you could move 10 spaces. Or do I lose some experience points and sacrifice 3 experience points worth, that 1 EK, if I even started with an EK or an emergency kit. Another thing that we've got is there's a river guide sighting, and we've got 2 choices to make. Do we boost or do we refresh? The trap, we experienced that. Now, I only took 2 hit points worth of damage, but man, I got a lot of experience. And again, it's more about enveloping story into this game as you're playing. And then this is where the horde comes into play, and this is where you will be attacking this mysterious horde creature or creatures, and you're going to have to roll some horde die, and as you can see here on the chart, round 1 it's only 1, but it could be up to 8 horde dice and even more, rolling them twice in round 5. And so this is where your defense is going to come in handy, and having a greater defense to beef you up and to be able to survive those attacks. Or do you retreat? So I didn't really talk about this the first time through this chart, but one thing that's going to be important there on your upgrade, that 3 experience, or that level B upgrade there, you're going to be able to gain 1 defense or a speed point, and that's how you would get that up. So there's a variety of different ways that you're going to be leveling up your character, gaining skill points or gaining hit points, trying to get that experience, and it's going to be giving you that roguelike sensation while playing this game, and the tense decisions that you'll have to make, deciding whether or not you go down some of those corridors and risk that, because at the same time that you're going to be leveling up, these suit characters are going to be leveling up, and not only are you going to have to worry about them, but possibly the horde as well on top of that. So let's go back up to the top and let me talk to you about some thoughts I have on The Calling. All right, what do I think about The Calling, a roguelike game? I'll preface this by saying that dungeon crawls are not typically my jam. If I'm going to play something like that, then I want it to be inside of an RPG, a role-playing game that's immersive, and I'm using pen and paper and my mind and this whole imagination. But what's different about this one is it's kind of doing that in that you've got this whole big story, and there's these illustrious figures, and more importantly, it's got this roguelike aspect to it that's so addicting. I don't know if you've ever played games on the Nintendo or any platform. I'm a big Nintendo freak, but I've played things like Dead Cells and Slay the Spire, and you keep coming back to it because you want to be able to level up or get that next experience or skill point or get some more hit points, and you just want to keep improving your character. I mean, back in the day, I used to play Diablo over and over and over. Diablo is one of my all-time favorite games, and that was because I would just play the game just to level up my character. It wasn't so much about the story. In fact, I don't even know that I know the whole story plot of any of the Diablos, to be honest with you, but I know they kind of change. But I digress. There's a squirrel. I digress. But I like that roguelike aspect of the game, and this has that feeling in it. Now, like I said, this is a prototype copy, and I wasn't given any big story involved in this. I just had the game instructions, and that's where I think it's lacking for me right now. But I don't know what's going to be included with the final production of the game. There is a lot of potential to flush out a story here and add a story, and I think the encounter roll is great and the different choices that you have, but there's only 6. So I don't know if Wesley's going to be including more decision points, but that's so easy to do and can be done with expansions or including expansion content in there. The world's the limit with this. It's all about the system that he has in place and the storytelling ability that he has, and he has that in spades, as can be prevalent on his site and the different products that he has and the experience he has in that industry. So I think that with just a little bit flushing out of a story, and I think adding some more options, this game could be much better than it already is. That's not to be meant to be a knock on it. That's just, if I was to pick something on the game that I'd want to improve, it would be that. It would be more choices and more of a story. But I don't know what he has in mind for this. I enjoyed my romp through this world. I want to know more, though. I want to know what's the story behind that, the agent. And, I keep thinking like the Matrix, right? And Mr. Anderson. and oh, that was bad. And the Horde. Who are the Horde? What's the relationship between the two? What's the city that I'm wanting to get out of? And why am I being chased? There's so much story here that's begging an answer, and I'm wondering how he's going to do it and what he has in planned for the release of the game and the Kickstarter. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of different add-ons and material to flush into this game, to add into this game, to flush all of that out. So is The Calling a roguelike game for you? I'll leave that up to you to delve into this world and see if these mechanics are up your alley. There's a pun there. There's some other people that have been doing some fantastic jobs on covering this game, and I'm sure he's going to be flushing out quite a bit in the Kickstarter campaign. I know that the Kickstarter is due to launch on September 1st, and as of the recording of this video, that's about a weekish away. So anyway, I wanted to put this out to help Wesley, and because I was kind of interested in learning about this game. Like I said, I don't typically get into dungeon crawlers. I was intrigued by the whole roguelike aspect of it. It's a game I enjoy, but it's one I would enjoy more with more story and more options and more choices to it. I've kind of, I think, lived out my experience of the game in solo. Now, there's a whole nother world but there's a whole nother aspect of this in the multiplayer version of this game, and that's just adding more players. There's not a lot of player interaction as far as I know. I haven't read all of the multiplayer rules yet, but I just want to make you aware there is a multiplayer version of it out there. For me, if I was playing this, I would want to play the solo game, and it would be like that Diablo sensation I had and wanting to get back to it continuously, not setting it down, but I'd be like, I'd die and I'd jump right back into it and want to level up that person. Anyway, that is The Calling, a roguelike game. I hope you enjoyed this video. And give me your thoughts down below. Is this something you might consider? Is this something you're going to check out? What do you think about dungeon crawl games or roguelike games? What are some roguelike games other than Slay the Spire, obviously, which was a huge hit, that you've played that I might need to check out a board game version of? Anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Have fun gaming. And more importantly, be kind to one another. Bye-bye.